Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss how Tories in the House of Lords are attempting to delay and even block long-awaited improvements to the rights for renters against dodgy landlords. I also want to talk more generally about the things Labour are doing which are going to make people's lives much better. No one's really talking about them, and I also realised that includes me. So time to kick back a bit, but first, for daily political news and commentary, please hit the subscribe button to stay notified. So bizarrely, I've been getting a series of comments on the channel along the lines of, "Oh, sticking up for Labour for a bit of a shill, aren't you?" And I'm thinking, hang on a minute, there is not a single thing Labour have actually done wrong which I have not covered on the channel, often multiple times. Whether it be Labour comms, going beyond the cash review, which Street and actually should have just fed to the shredder, failing to reform taxes enough last October, failing to move more quickly on EU relations, failing to understand that we need to establish a safe asylum centre in France, at least to stop the small boats, the debacle over inheritance tax, which screws genuine small farmers but doesn't dissuade the fake farmers, or the more recent unnecessary and callous cuts to welfare. Not a single misstep has been ignored on this channel. An audit would actually show way more critical content than supportive content. And that's not my aim. That's not deliberate. It's just the way it's worked out, because I'm not a Labour comms worker. I'm a supporter who is editorially independent. And it's just the way things have worked out. But I'll tell you something, and I've told a few of these people in the comments, there's a lot of stuff Labour are doing really well that I'm not really covering at all. In fact, I've been very remiss on that front. The reason largely is because although I can take a hit on the odd video with an important message, the channel cannot carry on if I just constantly do videos on something that just won't get views. And unfortunately, bad news sells better than good, unless it's like really good news. But what Labour are doing now won't come to fruition for some time. So it can't be considered really good news until people are actively benefiting from it. And much of it is still hypothetical. The budget is still not quite in place. There's still a few days before that comes online. Laws are still passing through Parliament. For example, the Renters' Rights Bill is at the committee stage of the House of Lords. These are new laws to protect tenants from dodgy landlords, which won't be a problem for decent landlords at all. Getting rid of no-fault evictions, letting tenants appeal above market rent increases. These are often used to force tenants out by dodgy means. More rights to request a pet as part of your tenancy, creating a stronger legal imperative for landlords to fix hazards more quickly, and so on. There's actually quite a lot in it. And it even gives landlords better protections against dodgy tenants, because the abuses are not all one way. This will give more security to literally millions of people, not far off 10 million people, it's believed. Having a stable home is like really important for everyone. And the lack of security when it comes to your home is a huge source of stress for many people. In fact, one of the easiest ways we can tackle mental health problems in this country is to actually make sure people have some security that the basics of their life are not going to be taken away from them. And this legislation tackles a long list of the more common problems. And the Tories are trying to stop it, despite many of these measures having been their own policy in government for many years. But of course, lots of Tories are landlords, so they never carried it out. Now, Tory members of the House of Lords are reportedly working with private landlords to delay the passage of the bill through the Lords and potentially set up a legal challenge. Now, if I were an investigative journalist, I might be taking a little nosy to see if any of the Tory lords involved are either landlords themselves or have taken donations from landlords. But they will ultimately not block it. They will try the same legal tricks as they did in Scotland. It failed there, it will fail here. But of course, it is possible they could delay these new laws, demonstrating that enhanced rights like these are only possible with a Labour government, no matter what the Tories promise. Then there's the Employment Rights Bill as well. Now, I have done a video on these new laws because they're stunningly important for any Labour supporter, but will certainly improve the lives of this time tens of millions of workers. Not only will it mean that many more workers will be treated with a bit more respect, but it will give them more power in negotiations over pay and conditions. Again, just like with renting, more security. It rebalances a system that tilted way too much in favour of dodgy employers. And as always, I mean dodgy employers. Better workers' rights laws are good for decent employers because they're already treating their workers fairly. So the legal compulsion actually stops their dodgier competitors undercutting them with abusive practices. It's better for workers, it's better for decent employers, it's only bad for shit employers. Guess which group the Tories will be representing as they tackle this bill as it passes through the Lords? Badenoch has already said that the Tories will reverse these workers' rights when they return to power. And I'm going to suggest that although it will not be Badenoch leading them back to government, this particular policy will remain with all of her successors. Millions will be helped with the Renters' Rights Bill. Millions will be helped with the Employment Rights Bill. Then there's the pensioners, which people feel Labour have abandoned, but anything but. Means testing the winter fuel allowance was not getting rid of it, as people keep saying. It meant wealthy pensioners whose heating was still on this winter, no problems, didn't get it. Now, yes, the policy was still poorly implemented, and it is clear that some who should have got it did not get it. But I'll tell you two things about it. First, there were no articles in the Tory press about the problems the policy caused this winter weather. There were lots of articles talking about what would happen. Oh, this will happen and that'll happen. There were no articles about it happening, was there? And it wasn't a warm winter. I'm not saying it was the coldest, but it wasn't a mild winter. If the Tory client media had found evidence of suffering as a result of this policy, even on the flimsiest of evidence, they would 100% have been pushing it. So would the Tories in PMQs. That they have been as quiet as church mice means that tells a story in itself. They could not find the evidence to beat Labour up with. Second, Labour's drive to get more pensioners to apply for pension credit worked. An extra 46,000 pensioners received pension credit over this winter, above and beyond the number who sort of have been getting it in previous years. So far from abandoning the most vulnerable pensioners, Labour made sure that nearly 50,000 of them got an extra, never mind £200 a year, £4,000 a year. Don't hear many talking about that. Then there's the NHS. Clear improvements have been taking place, and over winter. Shouldn't be possible. The FAIR metric is to compare figures with the same point the previous year. That's how you test progress, because there's a natural ebb and flow through the year. So I expected to judge Labour by producing better results next winter than the one we just had. But they've actually got waiting lists down over winter itself. The number of patients waiting for care is down. The waiting list for treatment is down. The waiting list for tests is down. In fact, the wait for tests is the lowest it's been since before COVID. The number of people getting timely cancer diagnosis is up. The number of cancer treatments is up. Labour have met their pledge to deliver 2 million extra appointments incredibly early. The government have also added extra emergency dental appointments as well. Hundreds of thousands they're in the process of. It's not just one metric, it's like half a dozen, which Labour have improved. See, sometimes you could improve one metric, maybe by loading up problems somewhere else, right? But it's so many metrics that you think, no, this is actually just improvement, isn't it? And I'll keep saying it over winter. Demand is rising over winter. How do you get it going down over winter? Then there's the extra money for affordable and social housing. Even more was announced recently as well. People were crying out for this. Labour have delivered it, but many of those same people don't seem too interested now. Were they ever interested? Even in terms of tax policy, they are actually doing some good stuff. Yes, the cuts have attracted negative attention, quite right too. But when people say, why not go after the rich tax dodgers, it's like, yeah, they have. Reeves immediately hired extra tax inspectors specifically to do that. She's also been targeting dodgy tax avoidance schemes. There's quite a few of them been shut down. In fact, something that wasn't reported on the news from last week's budget statement, the OBR have revised upwards the amount of money they think the Treasury is going to recover from rich tax dodgers. That suggests that the efforts to crack down on it is working better than they expected it would last October. Hopefully these improvements will carry on. And there are other things as well. Water company executives now face a legal imperative to improve water quality. The law has passed last month. If they repeatedly failing their duty to tackle water pollution or to deal with sewage dumps, they will face criminal convictions. That is now the law. Possibly even prison if they're really stupid. Of course, the idea here is not to send, as much as some people want to, it's not to send executives to prison. It's to make them do their jobs properly so that nobody has to waste a court's time. So this will improve water quality after years of decline. The boost to nationalisation, rail companies, buses, service personnel accommodation, NHS England, GB Energy. There's a lot of really good stuff which Labour are doing. I haven't really been talking enough about it myself because, the bad news is what gets the clicks. But those who just want to focus on the bad policies, and they do need highlighting, but anyone who only focuses on those without ever acknowledging the good stuff, they are the ones whose credibility has been flushed down the toilet. I mean to say, I even praised the Tories once or twice when they did something right. It's not my fault, they rarely did. But anyone who is trying to claim the same thing of Labour, oh, I would totally support them if they did something right. It's not my fault they're not doing anything right. So therefore, you're downplaying the boost to renters' rights, workers' rights, above inflation rises to minimum wage, getting more money to the poorest pensioners, more social affordable housing, more housing in general, better access to the NHS, including dentistry, bringing more public services under state control, moving away from fossil fuels towards low carbon energy, more money to tackle homelessness, tackling rich tax dodgers. Anyone who is saying, oh, I'd totally talk about Labour's good stuff if they did any of it, you're basically saying none of these are good policies. Which point you may need to consider that you're in lockstep with the Tories there, perhaps reevaluate your political beliefs. Nothing wrong with most of the focus being on the bad policies, and it's especially understandable if you're personally impacted. In fact, just to be clear, those who have been genuinely badly harmed by one or more of these missteps, I totally understand that attitude. But for the rest, why do they seemingly not care about the tens of millions who over the next year are going to have the balance of power tilted in their favour? If a commentator, personally unaffected by the bad stuff, doesn't accept the good policies, it's like you don't want the good policies, you just want to complain. That is why I would suggest costs people credibility. If you insist you want good policies, but you do not talk about them when they arrive, I do not think you want good policies at all, just an excuse to rant at the world. Because you know what? Anger is a useful grift. It's the classic case of saying either everyone has to win exactly as I see it, or nobody must win. That an extreme Tory government that makes everyone suffer is better than an imperfect Labour government that makes some people suffer. And one day, because of this attitude, that is what we will get again. And just as with Brexit, those people who are wanting it will still not be happy. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, please click the like button and subscribe for further content. If you'd like to support the channel further, you can click the join button for memberships. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.